Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are now in the final stage of this series, where we are looking at the obstacles for self-realization. And we covered the major obstacles that Krishna identifies is the ajnaha, that means not knowing the truth, or not gone to the courts or gone to a teacher to learn what is the nature of the reality. So jnanatvam has to be done by the buddhi that has ajnanam, and it's the mind that has to be educated, and education can only come through a process, and the process is not for self-realization, a process for recognizing what is the nature of the reality, so that the mind can turn in the direction that's being pointed out by the scriptures. So it is the Vedanta scriptures that specifically tells it is right here, right now you can realize, because it is there all the time. So who am I? Inquiry is only first part of this series, where I need to inquire what is the nature of the reality from my point as a subject, and also I have to understand what is the nature of the reality from the total. The whole world is there. So it's not an exclusion of the world, it's an inclusion of the world, but without getting carried away with the superficial names and forms that are superimposed on top of the substratum, which is the Brahman. So the whole thing is nothing but Brahman, is what Vedanta points out, and also points out that you are that Brahman. For that knowledge only the Vedanta becomes a pramana. And no any other religion that teaches this is Vedanta. Veda means knowledge, Anta means this is the ultimate knowledge. So whether whoever teaches the gravitational force is a physics. So it is nothing to do with a particular book per se, even though the physics books talk about it, and chemistry books don't talk about it. So if I want to learn physics, I had to go to physics book only, not chemistry books. Same way, if I want to learn the highest truth that is pointed out, that includes both the subject I and the object this, for that only tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva abhigached. You go to a teacher. Why teacher? For a physics I need to go to a teacher, but even in the universities they insist that you should have a guide. When you want to go to inquiring into the new areas, you need to be properly guided so that the mind doesn't get dissipated into all other things, but focused on that in the right direction by the right means. For that only you need a guide. Without a guide you cannot do even masters. Sometimes you may do master by taking courses, but if you are doing research, that means you are searching again. It's called research. That means it is there that I am searching again. That means I have to discover. Discover means removing the cover. And that is what Vedanta, the truth is there all the time, but I have to discover, because there is a covering of ignorance, and for that only you have to go to a teacher. And for the physics and all that, I may be able to learn in the library, but for higher research, universities insist that you should have a guide. Why do I need a teacher? And if people listen to J. Krishnamurti talks and all that, say you don't need a teacher and so on, you are conditioned by the teacher. He himself wrote when he was a child at the feet of the master. And then he criticized later, and if somebody asks, I don't know, anybody asks who wrote that book. But teacher is required to guide in the proper direction, he is not going to be taking you like, he's not a mule guru, that Gurudev used to say. He doesn't take you to the truth. He will only point out in the direction that you have to look at, so that you don't dissipate your energy in other directions and only look in the direction. For that only you need a teacher. And then you have to do it. You have to inquire what is the direction that is being pointed out by Vedanta and the teacher. Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya. Shastra tells you, and the teacher provides you a proper interpretation of the Shastras. Because if you study Shastra, you get thoroughly confused. So a lot of discussions goes on about this is what Shastra says, no, that's not what Shastra says, and so on. Though that itself proves that one needs a proper teacher to help in terms of what exactly the meaning of the Shastras. And each teacher, sometimes in the Vedanta also, each teacher claims that they are the right ones and the other ones are wrong, and that's what is called Purvapakshas and Siddhanta. So you have many interpretations of the Shastras, including there are 10 interpretations of the Brahma Sutras also, everyone claiming that they are right and everybody else is wrong. Then who is right? I don't know. All the Acharyas themselves don't know who is right or wrong, and everybody claims they are right. So what should I do? So that's why the Shankara says, only because of the grace of God you are led to a proper teacher. So therefore the Manushyattvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samsrayam, Durlabam Trayam Evaitatu Daivanugraha Hetukam. Only by the blessing of the God you are led to a proper teacher. That is the statement by Shankara in the Vivekachudamani. Therefore, only a proper teacher comes because of blessing from God. Lord is not going to bless you, especially you compared to others, provided you deserve it. How do you deserve it? By your previous sadhana. So, your own karma proper karma will lead you to that state, to the discovery. That's why in the Avadhuta Gita says that Ishvaranugrahat eva pumsam advaita vasana. Even to have an Advaita teacher and the inclination towards that, it is only Ishvara anugrahat eva. That means only by the blessing of the Lord you will be led to a proper teacher, even the Advaitic teacher. So those who are listening to this, they have to think and say, this is what I have learned from my teacher, which I am passing on as his grace, because what I know is nothing, but it is all from the Guru Parampara only, that being passed on to the degree that I can understand and I can communicate in the language that I can express myself. And that is because of the grace of the teacher only. That's what essentially has to be understood. And now we are discovering that in spite of understanding why people say I am not able to realize, because it is immediate and direct itself. At the same time, I have been studying it and I have not realized. So essentially we said the major problem is lack of faith in the understanding, or lack of faith in the teaching, that how can I be infinite when I feel I am limited. Desakala vastu parichinnatvam, that means limitation by the space-wise, time-wise, object-wise. I see it, whereas the truth says I am infinite. I don't feel I am infinite. So where is the problem? That means I am associating myself with this body, mind and intellect so intensely that I am the body, I am this, which is called ego, is still in a subtle form, still lingering around, therefore preventing me from recognizing that I am not this, but I am pure existent consciousness which is infinite. So that shift in the attention is not clearly there. Even though I understand it, I am not paying attention. That we discussed with respect to the 10th man, that he is searching for the 10th man. The teacher says you are the 10th man, but he doesn't have this clear faith in terms of the teacher words. He is still objectifying the 10th man. I am looking for 10th man. The very objectification of the 10th man, because 10th man is never there outside. So I am looking for him outside, and therefore I will never find it. Why? Because I am the one the 10th man is. So the one has to turn inwards. Even though when the teacher says that you are the 10th man, his attention is only looking for 10th man outside and still can't find it. So one has to say, I am not able to realize Brahman. Why? Because I am still looking for Brahman outside. Even though scripture says you are that Brahman. It's nothing to do. Look, it is something to understand. And that is not clicking into the mind because of lack of faith in the scripture and lack of faith. That's called a pramana samshayam. So samshayatma, the one who doesn't have the knowledge, ajnaha, and doesn't have a faith, ashraddha, and samshayatma. Samshayat means doubting about what? Doubting about the scriptural statement and doubting about that's called pramana, and also doubting about himself, that is called pramata. So how can I be infinite? I understand scripture says infinite, but at the same time I am not able to feel it because experientially I am feeling I am finite, and scripture says you are infinite. So there is a gap between experience versus the infinite. And the another obstacle we said is trying to objectify, looking for experience of Brahman. And I want experience, I have learned everything, now I want to sit down and experience. We said, you don't have to experience, it is right there, it is immediate and direct. In every experience, Brahman is there. So it's not lack of experience, but lack of understanding that the experiencing is, bottom line of that is the Brahman itself that I am. That clear understanding is not sinking in. And Gaudapada now he talks about 4 major obstacles that he discusses in the Mandukya Karika. And he said, number 1 is laya. Laya means sleep. So when I want to sit and meditate on it, I get sleep. Without my knowledge, mind goes into blank because I am contemplating on that which is beyond the perturbations in the mind. Even looking at the thoughts, I am not suppressing the thoughts. Even looking at the thoughts, I want to concentrate not on the contents of the thought, not on the objects that are associated with the thought, but I want to see the consciousness because of which I am conscious of the thought. It's called witnessing consciousness. And when I try to shift my attention from the contents to the because of which I am conscious of, because tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati, we explained that. If I try to move my mind in attention to that, leaving the contents of the object, just by looking my hand, leaving my hand, looking at the light getting reflected by the hand. That's a meditation I said. Same way, looking at the thought, leave the thought, while looking at the thought, concentrate on the consciousness because of which the thought is revealed. That is you are. So that is a meditation now. If I try to do that, the mind goes to sleep. Sleep comes because mind is now quiet, calm, perturbed, all other thoughts are gone, are not really encouraged to come because you are concentrating on not the thought but on the contents of the, not even the contents of the thought. That because of which thought is revealed. If you pay attention to the thought, then you go along with the thought, from thought to the next thought to the next thought. So that's not meditation. Meditation is using the thought but leaving the thought, concentrating on the consciousness because of which the thought is revealed, and that you are that consciousness. So the Swami Chandrayananda used to give a pole vault example. I need the pole, so I take the pole, ran all the way, and run with the pole and stick the pole, and then use the pole to go beyond the pole. So, and then I cannot take the pole anymore, leave the pole, and I'll be crossing the other horizontal pole. That's called pole vault. People have seen it, and in the Olympics they do that. So this is same way I use the mind, contemplate using the mind, and mind means the thought process, and looking at the thought and concentrating on contemplating the contents of the thought, the consciousness that reveals the thought, and that I am is what is essentially, or the recognition of that is, now I am not leaving the thought. Leaving the means leaving the contents of the thought. I am not paying attention to the thought. That's what leaving means here. Leaving the mind means not discarding the mind. I am not paying attention to the thought process per se, but paying attention to the consciousness because of which the thought is revealed. That is essentially involved in the sadhana. So therefore, what it says is essentially, I need the mind, and objectification is a bigger problem. And to understand clearly what is that I had to do, meditate on. And when I try to meditate on, I get sleep. Because when the mind is calm and quiet, I get sleep. So what should I do? This is one of the obstacles. A lot of people go to meditation class and then start sleeping and snoring also. So, and everybody's attention is only on the who is snoring here. So what is to be done? So the sleep comes because the mind is quiet. So the best thing is, do not do meditation when the mind is tired. So when the mind is tired, when the mind has become quiet, naturally one gets sleep. So to prevent sleeping, the best way is to do meditation or contemplation in the mornings, early mornings, where the mind is already rested enough, the body itself is rested, so that it is alert, and you are in a sitting position where it's in the recommendation is in the Padmasanam, if it's possible. But if it becomes painful, then sit in a position where you are not conscious of your sitting position. That is the idea. Not Padmasanam alone is a meditation. If you can do it, that's good. But if it starts paining, then that's not, your attention is on the pain of the body, not on the meditation. So meditation is where you sit in a place where it is calm and quiet at a time where it is calm and quiet. So recommended time according to the Vedanta is in the Brahma Muhurtam. It's early morning after taking bath, freshening yourself so that you are fresh and the mind doesn't want to go to sleep, and you are not still agitated about the worldly affairs, therefore it can contemplate. That's called Brahma Muhurtam. That's the best time. So Laya, the sleep comes for many, particularly because when the body is tired or when you didn't have enough sleep. So in order to prevent sleep, try to do at a time inquiry when the mind is alert. So alertness is important. And also, if you eat too much and then try to meditate, the mind goes to sleep because the blood has to go to digest the food. That's why you should not do with the full stomach. And if you are very hungry also, you have a problem. If you not, so you have to say balance what Krishna calls in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita about meditation. He says mita ahara nidra, means balance food and sleep is required as a part of a sadhana. So a disciple, a spiritual teacher, a spiritual student is one who maintains his discipline all the time, both in terms of his food and in terms of his sleep and in terms of his all other avocations, so that mind is not unnecessarily agitated. Mind has to be agitated for some other reasons, because if you are in the world, you have to deal with the world. Okay, so therefore don't be in the world, go into forest and do your meditations. That's what used to be recommended in olden days. But now there is no forest, number one. And when you are hungry, what do you do after when you are forest? When you come out, you still are hungry. Body requires food. Body requires water. Since then you have to go and beg whatever the food is available, and you are supposed to do beg in 5 houses, and whatever you get, that's all your quota is. It used to be like that. Now you cannot even beg like that, because everybody is a beggar on the street. So people will abuse you. So this is what the famous story of Buddha and his disciple Ananda. So they went and do for bhiksha. So bhavati bhikshan dehi. So when Buddha and his disciple Ananda, they were begging, the fellow came and gave a lot of golly, means abusing you fellows, useless fellows, unnecessarily depending on the society and all that, he gave left and right. So Buddha just smiled and went left there and went to other place. So Ananda was asking, why did you put up with that? Why didn't you give him left and right? He said, the fellow gave me something, but I didn't take it. If you have taken it, then give it back. So you should have the right attitude also for begging also. But here, in this society now, it's difficult. That's why they have ashrams and all that, where sannyasis take, and then then you have an ashram, means then you have to raise money to support the ashram. It's a big, again, financial institutions have become. Idea is to minimize the transactional world to the degree possible, so that the mind is available. That is a real sannyasa. And wearing orange clothes will help, because other people won't bother you necessarily with their other problems, but other kind of botherations also will come to you. So the basic aim is try to avoid the minimize the transactions and contemplate on that. So the sannyasa is required rather than more physical sannyasa. Physical sannyasa helps to get the mental sannyasa, but not that is the only way that I have to do. It's a better way than living in the world. And if you can do it, if you can do it, and if the prarabdha demands that you cannot be able to do it because your dependents won't allow you, because you have to get permission from your wife and all that for sannyasa also, then you are stuck. Therefore, with whatever availability, you have to manage with whatever the Lord has provided. So the Lord wants you to continue in this and meditate on that. That's what has to be used. Because in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Yajnavalkya story is used to say that one has to be sannyasa in order to realize. Because Yajnavalkya was leaving his wife, he already know Vedanta, because he gave lectures before already. In the previous chapters, he was a teacher also. And even in that chapter also, he is a teacher. So when he says, I am going to leave you because I want to spend my time in the meditation, and his two wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani, wanted to divide the property so that they can be comfortably living. But Maitreyi, being highly evolved soul, says, why are you going, leaving all this? So that must be better than this. So I want that, not this. So she wants the teaching, and that's how the fourth chapter in the Bhagavad Gita starts with the Maitreyi. So the story of the husband teaching the wife Maitreyi, and there is a sotavyaha, mantavyaha, nididhyasitavyaha, says that you have to do. Listening to the scriptures, contemplating it, is what the teaching by a husband to the wife Maitreyi. So this the example is used to illustrate the fact that sannyasa is required. Sannyasa will be helpful. So someone went and asked Ramana Maharshi, is sannyasa required for self-realization? He said, it's helpful, but it's not essential. What is essential is Tyage Naike Amritattvamanasahu. Only by renunciation you get the immortality. Means you recognize immortality. So how do you get, what is realization there? What is the Tyagam there? Tyagam means at least mentally you have to live. Do not depend on something other than yourself. That is basically. Atmaniyeva Atmanatushtaha, Krishna says, one is reveling in himself by himself, because everything else is self only. So wherever he revels in himself also. That is also another aspect of it. So this is what essentially Laya and talking about when to meditate and all that. The second obstacle that Gaudapada says, Vikshepa, agitations. So this comes when you are sitting in the meditation, all agitations are coming in, because it's very quiet at that time. Why agitations? Because of my involved in the world, because of the rajasic nature of the world. I am involving because of my rajoguna, and so what should I do? Minimize your involvement, unnecessarily involvement in the worldly affairs, and whatever you do it as a loka kalyanam. Even taking care of your own body, and your own dependence, where you and your own transactions, do it as a prayer to the Lord. In that case, Ishvara you are bringing in, therefore he gets agitated, not you. So excitement and all that becomes a part of it, and this cannot be avoided, but one can minimize, and that's why we call it the possessions, the obligations, and the relationships and transactions. port has to be reduced to the minimum that one has to do. The body has a problem, body requires a hospitalization. All those things are normal routine that has to go, that has to be done as long as BMI, body, mind, intellect are there. Therefore, it has to be taken care, but has to be used for the utilization of the total for everybody else, becomes a loka kalyanam. Then you are bringing the Lord into picture there, and as a surrenderance to the Lord, as an offering to the Lord, as a prayer to the Lord. So a jnani, in fact, who wants to become a jnani, act in such a way that it beautifies the creation. So whatever you do, help the whole society to the degree that you can. You may not be able to whole help, at least help locally, whatever you can do. So there is a one simple illustration is, I think there's a big storm and all that, and after the storm, lot of things washed to the shore, and lot of crabs came out, and they were almost dying on the shore. So one fellow picked up each one and threw it into the ocean so that it can survive. And there are millions of them already. So he is picking each one and throwing it. So one fellow saw, what is this fellow is doing? So how can he solve the millions here? He cannot make them alive, all that. He cannot help all that. So he went and told them, hey, what you're doing is nothing. How can it make any difference in terms of you're taking one? There are millions here. So in answer to that, he picked up one more and threw it, and he said it made the difference for that. So whatever you can do, you may not be able to solve the whole world problems. You may not be able to help anybody, everybody. If you can do whatever help that you can do, even locally 1-2 persons, whatever that you can within the limitations of your capacity, that itself is a service. Because for that person, for that, it is a great help. And hopefully he will help others also. So whatever you can do, and if you can't do anything, at least do prayer. If you can teach, you can teach. If you can do the Shramadhanam, do Shramadhanam. If you can do financial, you can do. Anything that beautifies the creation is a contribution and make the world more beautiful, because the world is nothing but the Lord. That is the decoration of the Lord. Other decoration is all important for training this one. So the Jagada Isha Dehi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Book Daiva Pujanam. So this becomes a Daiva Puja, where you're looking at the whole universe as a Ishvara. And that's what Ramana Maharshi also says that. So that's called Vikshepa, getting down the agitations due to the rajasic nature of that. The laya is coming from a tamasic nature. And the third one is called Kashayam, that Gaudapada says. Kashayam is essentially a stagnation of the mind. It happens, we don't know why. Because under subconscious level, something that was there left behind opens up, because when you're opening everything, your mind completely free, all other things that are buried deep are coming out and exhausting out. And one of that is that which makes the mind dull and inactive. And what should I do? That's called stagnation. So turn your mind towards the Ishvara. There is no other recipe for that. That's called the Vikshepa, the Kashayam. And the last one that he identifies is Rasaswadanam. So Rasaswadanam means enjoying the meditation. Enjoying the meditation is when people say, oh, I had a beautiful meditation, it was so beautiful, I enjoyed it. And now he wants to repeat that experience. So it is an experience of that enjoyment, and now he struggles hard, and now he can't meditate anymore in that, because at that time the mind was quiet and he is able to enjoy. That itself becomes a bondage now. Is there a time where you are not there, you are not experiencing yourself? In those moments you don't have anything else other than that. But other things are also your own glory if you look at it. Then it's not anymore a particular experience of that state, but it is an experience that is available in every state. That is realization. So this rasaswadanam becomes another bondage also, and he calls it as an obstacle. Why? Because I am now dependent on that for my getting happiness. Or getting, I think that is what the self-realization is. In those moments, these people call it objectless awareness. I had a beautiful meditation and I need to strive for it all the time, and I cannot get it all the time. This becomes, you may get it, you may not get it. The more you are agitated outside, you may not get it. If you become less and less, you may get into that state and then go. What is required is understanding that I am that, whether the agitations are not there or are there too. That is real understanding. So these are the 4 obstacles that are specified, but only ways one has to apply and all that. Okay, so the correct understanding will help in terms of the self-realization, and one has to go through the process. There is no shortcuts here, and everyone has to go through, and sometimes it's a lifelong process, and one has to devote more time, and slowly one becomes more and more abiding in the knowledge. What is the litmus test? If I touch the world, I should not get burned. Remember the story from the Chandogya Upanishad. That means when I am transacting the world, my mind is less and less agitated. I become quite calmer. I get back to it very quickly to that. That's called the FIR reduction. The frequency of perturbation, the intensity of perturbation, and recovery time for perturbation slowly goes down, slowly, until I firmly abide in that. That is a slow process, steady process, lifelong process. With that, we complete that. What are the obstacles? One has to go back. If you have reference to particular obstacles, then you have to contemplate on it. And the next talk we will try to complete it, and there we talk about the important steps in self-realization as the summary of the whole talk series. That we stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.